Hi, it's Sue from Aging Joyfully. I found this fascinating treasure. This is a letter written today, January 23rd, 1948, while my father was stationed in Alaska while he was in the Army. The address is addressed to a Seattle address. Although he was in Alaska, they must have had some special run up to Alaska because Alaska was not even a state back then. It has a 3-cent stamp and the paper is ripped at the bottom, like she just used an old piece of paper lying around. So you get information before I even read the letter, you get a sense of what it was like. My father grew up in poverty, and the image we have in history books is that once World War II ended in 1945, everybody was wealthy, that America was prosperous until maybe the 70s. But this letter tells a slightly different story. And I'm going to read it exactly as it is. You have to remember it's 1948. And there's one thing that bothers me, and I don't know the meaning of it, but maybe you know, and I'm sorry if it offends anyone. I debated on reading the entire letter and not reading it. And I thought, from a historical perspective, it's kind of like the Laura Ingalls books that she wrote when she talked about Native Americans. She lost her award because of the words she used against the prejudice against Native Americans. But that was the 1800s, and this is 1948. So again, I apologize for anyone that I may offend. Friday, January 23rd, 48. Interesting, she included the day as well as the date. Writing a letter is an old skill, and most people don't write letters. Dear son, just received your letter January 15th. Not bad, only 8 days. We are having 2 below. Expect 5 to 10 below tonight. I am tired, putting coal in furnace. I wish you was here to help out. Sister went back to work for 8 days, laid off again. I was fascinated with that. When I searched that online, I saw there was a recession in 1948. So she went back in the mailroom. They needed help. She gets $43.50 a week. Gets paid when she's off. Extra pay for Saturday when the work. Her salary was $44.50 on the line. So that's not bad. $1 a week cut. She didn't know if it's steady there. She still goes out with Joe. He quit his job at Rockland. He wants to get into television and Motorola, but can't get in. They are hiring every day, so I don't know what's wrong with him. Sister is going to a formal on Valentine's Day at LaSalle Hotel, so she asked Mike to take her. He took her last year and gave her an orchid. Joe don't want to go. He don't like fancy places. He likes it around his house in the Polish patch. Now, I take that to mean that he was Polish and lived in a Polish area. Chicago's always been a very segregated city where you have Little Italy and Chinatown, and the different groups live together. So I don't know if Polish Patch was like Chinatown or Little Italy, if that was an official name for the area, or if that was a derogatory name she gave it. You could comment below if you know. I tried to Google it, and they had no information about that, and I've never heard of that, but there was a lot of discrimination against Polish people. I find that ironic because my grandmother was Irish, and she was around when Irish were discriminated against, and there were signs everywhere that said Irish need not apply. They weren't going to hire the Irish, and we went to the tenement house in New York and learned the extreme prejudice against the Irish. But I believe what they told us there is when they had a parade, Irish started to be accepted after the parade because it was such a big event. But my grandmother's father actually lost his job living in New York and actually had to move to Chicago to secure work. So I believe they were discriminated against too. So I find it ironic if she's using a derogatory comment there against another group. But I would say I'm afraid it probably was. And again, it was 1948. If you ever watched Archie Bunker in the 70s, he had a lot of derogatory comments against Polish people. And again, sorry if you're Polish and I offended you. I wanted to leave it in a historic context. He don't seem to have any class. I see the school teachers are going on strike. No pay since December, so I haven't a chance to be called. I don't know what she's talking about, but I think she took care of school teachers' children. I called up about taking care of child from 9:30 to 2:30, 6 days. That is nice hours, but I'd be gone over 6 hours. The fire would be out, and it's below zero Central just past Jackson Boulevard, so I don't go to see the lady. It was too cold to go out. Take it easy. Love, Mother. This is the first time you've seen our channel. We end every video with take it easy because my father always said that to me in every phone call. My mother, somewhat, but not as much. And Steve's parents also used the phrase. So here it is from his mother, take it easy. My father thought it dated back to World War II when times were so rough. I don't know the real origins of it, but it's a family saying, so I always say, take it easy. It's a treasure to have this, and from a historical content, it's very interesting. My aunt dated quite a few different people in quite a few years, and back then you were encouraged to only marry within your religion and your ethnic group. She did marry someone out of both of those, but her husband had to sign a paper agreeing to raise the children in my aunt's religion. So it's interesting, and she was quite a bit older when she did eventually get married. I don't know why. But also, she said she wished my father were there to help because he was in the army, and her husband, or my grandfather, had passed away recently, and she had no one to help her with putting coal in the furnace to keep the house warm. I read this, I was just shocked because I never thought about when central heat came into being. I know that they always had coal in Christmas songs, and they talked about getting a lump of coal if you were bad, but I never really gave it much thought. My father never talked about coal. My mother never talked about coal. So I thought it was fascinating that she couldn't get a job because the fire would be out and it would be too hard to restart when it's below zero. So I don't know how she did support herself, except that my aunt lived with her. I don't know if she got Social Security because it was 48 and Social Security started in 35. I was curious about how my grandfather helped with putting coal in the furnace when he was working, but he worked for a soft drink company where they were bottling the soft drink, and they called it pop in the Midwest, and they only made it in the summer. Every winter he was laid off, and I guess he got unemployment or something, so he was home because they did not make pop in the winter. That's another fascinating point, and there was not the obesity there is today. That's very interesting because I never knew that they didn't make pop in the winter. I mean, who would be drinking it when it's so cold? You didn't want to drink a cold drink. I guess you were drinking hot drinks. I don't really know. Because I didn't know my grandparents, and we didn't really talk about things back then. But she couldn't leave the house because and she was taking care of school teachers' kids, but they were not working, so she was not working. So 48 was a challenging year. And in my head, from 45 on, it's like everybody was doing well, and the term teenager came into being because kids were now spoiled, and for the first time were able to be in this group instead of having to help support the family. They were able to get material things. So this does change my perspective. How about you? Hey, if you have any old letters or know anything about the past, feel free to comment. And if you enjoyed this, check out our other videos. We have so many different videos on health, traveling, dogs, decorating, just a variety of everything. Our audience is from 10 to over 65. Till I see you again, take it easy.